Millionaire discovers his wife's shocking actions against Maid's daughter. His heartwarming response leaves everyone speechless. Jack stood in the familiar glow of the Maplewood Charity Gala, a sparkle of excitement buzzing in the room. His heart swelled with pride as he marveled at the vibrant community he had helped to foster. Women in elegant gowns swirled around him while men in sharp suits exchanged enthusiastic banter, each of them there to support the very dreams that had once fueled Jack's own journey from nothing to a self-made millionaire. But just as quickly, that warmth turned icy when he found a single letter hidden in the folds of Maria's carefully manicured purse. It was addressed to Rosa, their housekeeper's daughter, a girl with radiant aspirations that could illuminate the darkest corners of poverty. The words swirled in Jack's head. "Your mother knows." It read, a painful acknowledgement of Maria's vile involvement. Jack's chest tightened as he read through the vicious sabotage of Rosa's efforts to secure a scholarship, the very life preserver Jack had envisioned for those struggling in his community. How could Maria, the woman who embodied love and compassion for him, fathom a betrayal so chilling? As he dropped the letter, he saw it all in a haze. Their family had been steeped in a lie. Throughout the evening, the air thickened with tension. Jack battled the storm brewing inside. Should he confront Maria or try to keep this family intact? A fragile balance shook in his heart, one he'd worked so hard to protect. Gazing across the room at Maria, her beautiful smile now felt like a cruel mask. The laughter around them died, and a knot of dread formed in Jack's gut. Suddenly, a voice rose amidst the festive atmosphere. A bold, trembling voice belonged to Rosa. She stepped onto the stage where Jack had moments ago welcomed the crowd with excitement. The entire gala turned to witness the young girl's raw determination. She had worked tirelessly for her education, her dreams flickering against harsh realities. She spoke about her desire for knowledge, a future brighter than the present she knew. Jack felt the weight of compassion and courage ripple through the room as he listened. He had been moved. More than moved, he was compelled to act, his ethical compass pulled taut. Before Jack could take in the moment, his own heart dropped when the truth spilled forth, inadvertently. "I will not be held back," Rosa declared, igniting gasps of disbelief that sliced through the swirling elegance of the gala. The crowd stood frozen, only the clinking glasses and shallow breaths filled the silence. Jack's eyes darted to Maria, who turned pale as she clutched her pearls, shameful lips barely parting to form words that would not come. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack stood on the edge of the precipice, each heartbeat a reminder of everything blindly perfect in his life. The applause stormed around Rosa, each round like a bolt of electricity, awakening old beliefs that he thought had never dimmed. Was it time to choose the moment of love over familial bonds? To support justice at the risk of tearing apart the family he'd fought so hard to create? Jack felt the pulse of a greater truth echoing within him. In that crowded room, as disbelief turned to admiration for the brave girl speaking her truth, he realized a critical truth: family loyalty may be a bond, but true wealth lies in the courage to confront the inevitable storm. And with that, the question lingered in the air: what choice lay ahead? The applause for Rosa began to die down, but the tension crackled like electricity in the air. Jack's mind raced as he sought clarity in the chaos surrounding him. He felt torn, each side pulling him in opposite directions. He had built a life on integrity, but the very foundation beneath him felt like it was crumbling. Rosa stood tall, still on that stage, eyes alight with a fierce determination. The whispers around the gala began to intensify, filled with shock and disbelief. It was a powerful moment that none could ignore, a young girl asserting her right to a future that had been unjustly snatched away. Jack couldn't help but feel a surge of pride for her bravery, yet a weight of despair settled in the pit of his stomach. "Jack! You need to say something," a voice broke through his thoughts. It was Tom, one of his closest friends and business partners, nudging him from the side, urging him to take the stage. But Jack's gaze was locked onto Maria, now pale and trembling, struggling to maintain her composure as the reality of Rosa's declaration settled around them like a dense fog. How could the woman he cherished be capable of such betrayal? Maria averted her gaze, her hands clenched tightly, a flash of guilt flickering across her features. Jack could feel his blood boiling. He had fought for every inch of success, and here was his wife, not only dismissing those struggles but sabotaging a young girl's dreams. The betrayal stung. Abruptly, he stepped forward, drawing the attention of the crowd, his heart thunderous as he approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice strong but trembling slightly, "I stand before you tonight, not just as a proud supporter of our community but as a man faced with a shocking truth." The crowd shifted, their whispers growing quiet in anticipation. Jack took a deep breath, forcing the tumult of emotions aside. "Rosa has reminded all of us that our actions have consequences, and our privilege comes with a responsibility to lift others up." Turning to Rosa, he felt a swell of admiration. "Your courage is inspiring. I want you to know that you are not alone. We will not let you be held back." Around him, the energy in the room shifted, heads nodding thoughtfully, encouragement blossoming in the air. He spotted tears in some eyes, empathy stirring hearts as the gravity of what he said sunk in. But the moment quickly turned heavy in Jack's mind. With every word, he could hear the unspoken questions echo: where did this leave Maria? Could their family ever reconcile after such devastation? He paused, looking around. "Together, we will ensure that we help every child in our community, regardless of where they come from or what hurdles they face." The applause resumed, echoing through the hall, but it felt different now, layered with an urgency that left Jack in a whirlwind of emotions. As he stepped off the stage, the room swirled in confusion, admiration, and uncertainty. Maria's expression was tight, a storm ready to break. Jack knew this confrontation could either tear their family apart or rebuild it anew. What could possibly unfold? "Jack," she began to say, her voice shaking as she caught his eye, "wait." The final thread of the evening whipped like a flag in a fierce wind. They both stood at the edge of a deep chasm, unsure of where the leap would take them. Would she defend her actions, or would she finally own up to the depths of her betrayal? The air was thick with suspense, each heartbeat marking the silence that threatened to explode. What transformation awaited them both on the other side of this pivotal moment? Maria took a step closer to Jack, her eyes a swirling mix of fear and regret. "You don't understand, it's not that simple," she pleaded, her voice barely loud enough to cut through the reverberating applause. Jack felt the heat rise to his face. He wanted to stand firm, to confront her about the choice she made to sabotage that little girl's future, but with every passing second, he felt the line between anger and compassion blurring. "Not simple. You just stood by while Rosa poured her heart out, Maria. Did you even stop to think what this means for her?" Jack's voice cracked, betraying his resolve. It stung to see her so vulnerable, yet he couldn't shake the betrayal. "I had my reasons." She shot back, fists trembling at her sides. Her eyes bore into him, and in that moment, the weight of the world seemed to rest on them both. "I was scared. We were losing everything. I thought if I could just make one small sacrifice, we'd be okay. By taking away a chance at a better life for someone else." His words hung heavy. The crowd began to disperse around them, but the air felt thick with unresolved emotion. "That's not sacrifice, that's betrayal." A tremor of disbelief flickered across Maria's face. "You think I wanted this to happen? I didn't think you'd choose her over me." Pain ruptured through her voice, raw and unfiltered. "I thought you would understand why I did it." Jack glanced at Rosa, who had stepped off the stage. The girl was surrounded by supporters, the joy on her face radiant, yet Jack felt the bittersweet pang in his heart. He wanted to embrace that joy, to feel what she felt. But how could he, standing amidst this storm? "Maria," he said gently, yet firmly, this isn't just about us anymore. Rosa deserves better than this. She deserves a chance. Just like how we had ours. The color drained from her face as her walls began to crack. You really mean that? Words caught in Jack's throat. He wasn't sure if he did. Would he risk everything for her? Would he risk everything for Rosa? His heart battled within him, spiraling in conflicting directions. You need to own what you've done if we're going to move forward, he finally said, newer resolve creeping into his voice. You need to confront it, apologize to her, and make it right. It's what's fair. His words seemed to light a spark, a small flicker amidst the raging darkness. Maria's expression softened as understanding seeped through her. What if she doesn't forgive me? Jack took a breath, glancing at their life together once so bright, now marred by shadow. It doesn't matter. You do it for her, not for you. It's time to make things right. The silence swelled around them, settling like an uncomfortable garment, thick and heavy. Maria stared into his eyes, searching for something hope, perhaps. And what if my own forgiveness doesn't come as easily? Jack's heart ached at her words, but he knew they were truths they could only face together. We will find it, he whispered, reaching for her hand. As their fingers intertwined, an unsteady confidence began to bloom, fragile yet potent. Just then, Rosa caught their gaze across the crowded hall. A world of hope sparkled in her eyes, and in that fleeting moment, Jack understood they were all intertwined in ways he never could have imagined, yet, even as he felt a cautious optimism wrap around them, the nagging fear of reconciliation still loomed overhead, casting a long shadow. Let us go find her, Jack said, leading Maria forward. Hand in hand, they ventured into the crowd, each step a decision laden with uncertainty. But deep down, Jack could sense the real challenge was only just beginning. Would they be brave enough to face the girl whose dreams were nearly shattered? Would Maria find it in her to not only apologize but also change? The doubts lingered, thickening the air, as their fate and Rosa's hung precariously in the balance. Would they muster the courage needed to confront the past? Would true healing emerge from the ashes of betrayal? The crowd buzzed around them, a backdrop of laughter and conversation, but to Jack and Maria, the world had narrowed down to a single purpose, finding Rosa. Jack could feel his heart thumping heavily in his chest, each beat a reminder of the stakes, the fragile ties of trust that hung between them, and the little girl whose dreams they both had to confront. Maria's fingers tightened around his. What if she hates me? The fear in her voice was unmistakable, cutting deep. Jack looked at her, really looked at her. She was scared. It was more than just the possibility of Rosa's anger, it was the broader realization of the pain she had caused, one that collided with her own dreams. She won't hate you, he replied, attempting to infuse his words with conviction. She may not understand at first, but you owe it to her to try. We owe it to her. As they navigated through the dispersing crowd, Jack spotted Rosa sitting on a nearby bench, her golden curls bouncing as she chatted excitedly with a couple of friends. Her happiness struck him like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the contrast of the dark weight that had shadowed their recent interactions. Look, Jack said, quietly tugging Maria's hand. She's right there. Maria froze, her fear morphing into visible anxiety. Jack could see the tears welling in her eyes, and he squeezed her hand. You can do this. It's time to face it. It's time to face her. Slowly, they approached Rosa. With each step, Jack's stomach twisted tighter. Would they find forgiveness or wrath? He felt Maria's hesitation, as her feet seemed glued to the ground. You go ahead, she whispered, her voice cracking. I can't, Maria, he said, steadying his voice. I'm not leaving you. We're in this together. You owe her this. Taking a deep breath, Maria nodded, though her eyes shimmered with uncertainty. They approached the bench, and Rosa's laughter faded into silence as she caught sight of them. Hi, Rosa. Jack said, trying to keep his tone light. Can we speak with you for a second? Sure. What's up? Rosa smiled, but there was a hint of confusion in her eyes. Maria stepped forward, and the moment felt like an eternity. Jack felt the air go still, waiting for the first words to spill from Maria's lips. Rosa. Her voice faltered, and the girl's smile began to fade. I need to talk to you about what happened. Rosa tilted her head, sensing the gravity of the moment. Is this about the contest? Yes, Maria choked out, her hands trembling by her side. Jack felt the tension knot tighter. I made a terrible mistake, and I'm so sorry. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of admission. Instead of anger, he saw surprise mixed with curiosity on Rosa's face. Jack watched as the tension bled away, the little girl tilting her head, her innocence shining bright. Why would you do something like that? Rosa whispered, her voice wavering. I was scared. I thought I was doing what was best for me. But I see now that I hurt you and I can't change that. I just want to ask for your forgiveness. Maria's voice cracked, and she looked vulnerable, laid bare before the girl who had become a symbol of hope. Rosa's brows knitted together, confusion and hurt mingling. I thought we were friends, she said softly. Jack's heart sank. He wanted to reach out and comfort both of them. You can work through this. Just give each other a chance, he encouraged, stepping a little closer as hope danced like a flickering flame. Maria took a breath, gathering her resolve. I want to be your friend again, Rosa. Please. Her eyes were pleading, filled with regret and yearning. Jack held his breath, sensing the moment teetering on a knife's edge. Would Rosa be able to look past the hurt? Or would this be the defining moment that fractured everything further? As the second stretched, Rosa simply stared back at Maria, and Jack felt the collective breath of the universe holding in anticipation. Rosa's expression softened, but before she could speak, a loud voice broke through the moment, a nearby group of kids shouting across the park, interrupting that fragile thread. Hey! Rosa! Come play with us. And in that chaotic moment, Jack understood the stakes had just been raised. Rosa stood, glancing between them, then back to her friends, her eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief and determination. Just a second. She called, looking back at them. Jack couldn't help but wonder if this was a dismissal or a distraction. As she turned back, her small frame nearly bouncing with the weight of choices ahead, Jack felt a lump rising in his throat. Would she decide to forgive? Rosa, wait. He urged, stepping forward. But she had already dashed off, and once again, Jack felt that uncertainty press down on them. Beside him, Maria trembled, fear mingling with hope. What now? She asked breathlessly. Jack took a deep breath, knowing the next move was crucial. We'll wait, he said determinedly, glancing down at her hopeful face. She'll find her way back to us. We just have to be here when she does. But would Rosa truly return? As uncertainty loomed larger than before, they stood together, arms linked, ready for the next round of healing. But in what form would it come? Jack's eyes tracked Rosa as she ran off, her laughter echoing like a bell across the park. The sound was vibrant, but it felt like it belonged to someone else, someone who wasn't living in the moment they were all caught in. Jack turned back to Maria, whose face was a storm of emotions, a mix of worry and hope that threatened to spill over. She'll come back, Jack said, trying to convince himself as much as her. Just give her some time. But what if? Maria's voice quivered, caught between fear and expectation. Jack shook his head, determination flashing in his eyes. It's not about what if. It's about us being here when she does. He could feel her hand trembling, and he squeezed it, grounding both of them. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched around them. Laughter faded as evening fell, and the park emptied bit by bit. The vibrant colors of the day softened into deep blues and purples, a stark contrast to the heaviness settling in Jack's heart. Minutes dragged on, each second stretching into eternity. Jack glanced around, half expecting Rosa to return with a smile, ready to forgive, ready to bridge the divide. Maria stood shivering next to him, her brow furrowed as she watched the playground where Rosa had vanished. "Do you really think she'll forgive me?" Maria asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jack opened his mouth, ready to reassure her, when he spotted a flicker of movement at the edge of the park. A small figure was darting toward them, golden curls bouncing in the fading light. But when he turned to Maria, he found her expression had morphed into something else: anxiety, hope, fear. "Look! It's her!" Jack exclaimed, pointing toward the approaching figure, but as they both turned, the little girl stopped in her tracks a few feet away. Jack could see the mingling of emotions on her face: curiosity, uncertainty, and a hint of mischief. She was chewing her bottom lip, her gaze darting back toward the group of friends who had called for her earlier. "Rosa," Maria stepped forward, her voice breaking the silence that enveloped them. "Can we talk?" The girl looked from Maria to Jack and then back again, as if weighing something deep in her mind. Jack's heart raced. This was it. This was the moment they had been waiting for. I don't know," Rosa started, her voice small. "I kind of had fun with them." Jack felt Maria deflate beside him, the faint spark of enthusiasm fading. "We didn't want to interrupt your fun. But can you give us a minute? Please." It was a plea wrapped in vulnerability. Rosa's eyes flickered with indecision. "But I thought we were gonna win together. Not just you." The words hit Jack hard. The innocence in her voice struck a nerve. He stepped closer, wanting to shield Maria from the pain he could see blooming in her eyes. "That was my mistake," Maria admitted, her voice stronger this time. "I was scared of losing, and I didn't think about how it would hurt you. I don't want you to think you didn't matter. You do. You matter to me. To us." The honesty hung in the air, thick like smoke. For a second, Jack thought he could see a glimmer of understanding in Rosa's eyes. But then her shoulders slumped, frustration flooding her expression. "I wanted to win with you, but now." Rosa's voice wobbled, her little hands clenched into fists. "Why should I? You didn't fight for me." Jack felt the weight of her words settle like a stone. "Because we didn't realize how much it meant," he said, stepping forward, wanting to take away the hurt. "Together, we're stronger. But we need your heart on this." Rosa studied him, her brow furrowed. "Do you really mean it?" "Yes, I do," Jack replied, holding his breath. "And I promise, I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. Just give our friendship a second chance." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant sounds of laughter and normalcy from the friends Rosa had just left behind. He watched as she weighed his words, unsure yet intrigued. "What if it doesn't work?" she whispered finally. "Then we'll figure it out together," Jack said, feeling a rush of commitment flow through him. "But we have to try first." Rosa stared at him, then at Maria, whose eyes were wide with hope. As she took a hesitant step forward, it felt like the world had aligned for one precious moment, then suddenly, a frenzied shout broke through from Rosa's friends. "Rosa! Come on! We found a hidden treasure!" In an instant, Rosa's attention swayed again. Jack felt the moment slipping, urgency rising. Would she choose to return to them or chase the thrill elsewhere? As she glanced over her shoulder, uncertainty danced in her eyes, weighing friendship against a fleeting adventure. "Rosa," Maria called, her voice shaky again. "It is your choice." Jack felt his heart race, equal parts terrified and hopeful. Would Rosa take the leap back into their fragile connection? Or would she abandon it for the comfort of familiar distractions? With her friends beckoning, Rosa stood at a crossroads, her tiny form caught between loyalty and longing. And as she took a deep breath, Jack felt the ground shift beneath him. Would they lose her once more? The answer lingered, waiting to unfold. Rosa hesitated, her small frame caught between two worlds, one of familiar joy with friends, and the other of uncertainty with the two adults who cared for her. Her heart raced as she struggled to make sense of the choices laid before her. Jack could see the gears turning in her mind, the innocent vulnerability intertwining with the complicated emotions that only a child could feel. Rosa, Jack breathed, taking a step closer to her. Every limb in his body urged him to reach out, to envelop her in a warm embrace, but he held back. This was her choice to make. What do you want? She looked at him, and in her wide, glistening eyes, Jack saw both fear and possibility. I don't want to hurt anyone. That's not what we want either, Maria added, her voice soft but strong. We want you to feel like you belong with us. No matter what. There was a weight to those words, a promise that hung in the air like a golden thread waiting to be seized. He said we could find buried treasure, Rosa murmured, her voice trailing off as her gaze strayed back to the boisterous laughter surrounding her friends. Jack's heart sank. But what about the treasure of friendship? He asked, desperation slipping through his careful control. The real treasure is the bond we have, Rosa. It's worth more than any hidden trinket. Rosa bit her lip, uncertainty clearly etched on her features. She was struggling between the thrill of adventure and the yearning for connection. Jack wished he could plant the truth in her heart, that friends who stick together are the ones who will always be there. But how to convey such weighty matters to a little girl? Suddenly, the laughter from her friends grew louder. Rosa! We're starting. Come on. The urgency of their call sliced through the moment like a knife, and in her hesitation, Jack saw her resolve start to fray. See? Rosa whispered, glancing back at Jack. They're waiting for me. I don't want to be the only one missing out. Jack's heart pounded as he fought to find the right words. But being with them means being alone when it counts, he said, urgency dripping from every syllable. You're not just a friend when it's easy or fun, you're a friend when you're challenged too. You matter to us, Rosa. Tears brimmed in her eyes, the conflict of choices weighing down on her small shoulders. Then, almost imperceptibly, she took a step back toward Maria and Jack, her tiny fists slowly relaxing. I think I want to try. Jack felt hope surge in his chest. Then let us go together. We can find treasure, but we'll do it as a team. Yeah. Rosa's face brightened for a fleeting moment, but uncertainty still flickered. She cast one last glance at her friends who were now shouting her name more insistently, their impatience mingling with excitement. Rosa! They called, voices full of eagerness. With a deep breath, she turned to her friends, her little frame trembling as though anchoring to two distant worlds. I'll be right back. She shouted, and without hesitation, she dashed back toward Jack and Maria, her choice crystallizing in that moment. But her friends weren't pleased. In a flash, the laughter morphed into shouts of protest. You don't want to miss out. One called out, and Jack felt a tightening in his chest. Would Rosa back away now that she'd left them behind? Would the allure of fun drown out their fragile connection? Rosa! Maria tried again, as panic crept back into her voice. Before anything else could be said, Rosa turned back, setting her stance, arms crossed just like her mother when she was stubborn. I want to be with them too, but I want my friends too. Her voice rang with a conviction Jack hadn't seen before. In that moment, right when Jack thought everything would slip away again, Rosa stood strong. But the precarious balance remained, the air thick with tension and unfamiliar choices. Rosa, think about what really makes you happy, Jack said, lowering his voice to a whisper. Even when it's scary, we can face it together. She blinked, her resolve momentarily faltering as those words sunk in deeper. But then her friends began chanting her name again, perhaps even more insistently this time, drowning out Jack's voice. Rosa! Rosa! Jack felt himself holding his breath again, caught between joy and uncertainty. Would she truly choose them? What kind of treasure was she willing to fight for? As Rosa took a step closer to her friends, the moment hung heavy, full of questions and what-ifs that were suffocating. Would she choose the thrill of adventure with one or trust the bond she had with the two who truly cared about her? as Jack and Maria exchanged glances, locked in that shared fear, Rosa's small figure stood torn between two worlds, the echo of her friend's calling intensifying. Would their friendship be strong enough to anchor her? And just when it seemed she might decide, a loud shriek erupted from the playground, not just any sound, but one that made Jack's heart drop. Something unexpected was unfolding, sending shivers up his spine. What had happened now? Would this incident shift everything they believed about the bonds they were trying to build? The shriek pierced the air, a chilling wail that cut through Rosa's moment of decision. Jack's eyes darted toward the playground, where a crowd of children had gathered, their faces twisted in confusion and fear. Panic clutched at his chest. What had happened? "Rosa, stay close," Maria urged, instinctively reaching out for the little girl. But Rosa stood frozen, uncertainty flickering across her face as she cast a glance back at her friends, who now seemed so far away. "Mom!" one child cried, a quiver in their voice. Jack felt a jolt of anxiety surge through him. "Let's check it out," he told Maria, his voice taut. Together, they rushed toward the commotion, hearts pounding with unease. As they approached, Jack's mind raced with possibilities. Was someone hurt? Had a fight broken out? Desperate worries flooded him, overshadowing the warmth he felt just moments before with Rosa. When they broke through the crowd, Jack's stomach twisted into knots. A little boy was on the ground, holding his knee, tears streaming down his face. Surrounding him were his friends, a mix of concern and instinctive childhood drama flaring up. Jack quickly knelt beside the boy, offering a calming presence. "Hey there, bud. What happened?" Jack asked gently, his voice steady despite the storm of adrenaline rushing through him. "I fell. I was running too fast." The boy sobbed, his face scrunching in pain. Jack could see the other children stirring, some whispering back and forth, casting glances at Rosa, who was still just a few steps behind him, unsure of what to do, their prior importance now fading in the wake of fear and turmoil. He turned to her, searching for her eyes, hoping his reassurance would anchor her. "Rosa, it's okay," he said softly, bringing her into the moment with him. "Sometimes we get hurt, but we can help him." Rosa's brow furrowed, conflicted as she watched the boy. She glanced at Jack, uncertainty mingling with a flicker of courage he desperately hoped she would seize. This was her chance to choose compassion, to step into the role of a true friend. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, past the throng of children. "Do you want me to help?" she asked tentatively, kneeling next to the boy, whose cries were slowly subsiding. "No, it's okay," he hiccuped, clutching his knee tightly. Rosa reached out a gentle hand. "I can get you a bandage and water. It will help." Jack's heart swelled with pride. Something had shifted in Rosa, bravery was building in her small frame. "Jack, can you get the first aid kit?" Maria called out. Jack nodded and dashed to fetch it, leaving Rosa in the midst of her friends. Taking out the gash in the boy's knee, Jack returned just in time to find Rosa carefully stroking his arm, her voice steady. "You're brave. It'll be okay," she soothed, her sparkling eyes like beacons of hope. He admired her, standing strong. She was letting the treasure of compassion blossom inside her, understanding that true friends support and uplift one another. As Jack applied the bandage, and the boy's cries turned into murmurs, the energy shifted. The previous laughter faded, replaced by a moment of unified compassion. Jack could see Rosa starting to embrace her dual identity, both friend and part of the family that truly cared for her. Amid her friends, she exuded a new sense of confidence, the spark transforming into something more profound. But Jack knew that despite this step forward, a deeper challenge loomed on the horizon, the delicate balance of her choices and those noisy invitations calling her back to carefree excitement. In that moment, their triumph held a hint of fragility, as if it might slip away with a harsh word or the wrong kind of drama. But just then, another sharp scream erupted from the other side of the playground, shattering their moment of connection. Jack glanced at Maria and then at Rosa, his heart anxious and wild once more. What new twist awaited them? Was their fragile bond prepared for the chaos that was sure to come next? Jack's heart sank as the shrill scream echoed, cutting through the moment they had just shared. The world around them seemed to pause, the faint rustling of leaves and distant laughter fading into a clamor of confusion. He turned to Maria, who was already scanning the playground scene, her eyes wide with alarm. With a quick nod, they both darted toward the source of the CRY. As they moved, Jack could see children parting like waves around them, all eyes locked on a new chaos. His mind raced. What had happened now? A child laying on the ground? Another fall? Or something more sinister? Pushing through the crowd, they arrived at a cluster of kids gathered around a pair of swings where a little girl stood, trembling and wide-eyed. In her hands, she clutched a stuffed bear that had seen better days. It was clear by the way she held it to her chest that it was more than just a toy to her. "What's wrong?" Jack called out, a knot tightening in his stomach. "She lost her bear." One of the children shouted, arms flailing as they pointed to the swing set where it had fallen forgotten. Jack's heart ached for the little girl. He crouched down to her level. "Hey there," he said gently, drawing her attention. Her tears shimmered like tiny stars in the sunlight. "Can you show me where it is?" Tentatively, the girl nodded, her little face scrunching up in determination. They made their way over to the swing set, and as they neared, Jack could see the bear lying in the dirt, half hidden by the swing's shadow. Rosa had followed closely behind, her expression shifting from concern to understanding. She watched intently as Jack picked up the stuffed animal, brushing off the dirt. "Here it is," Jack said, holding it out to the girl, who stepped forward hesitantly. "You've got a brave bear here, you know. It looks like it needs a little cleaning." The girl's face lit up as she reached for the bear, her fingers trembling as she took it. "Thank you," she exclaimed, her smile genuine and wide, washing away the previous tears. Jack beamed back, feeling a surge of warmth in his chest. This was what community felt like, compassion and kindness spreading like wildfire among the children. But amidst the joy of the moment, he noticed Rosa standing a bit farther off, her small hands wringing the sleeves of her shirt. There was uncertainty in her eyes as she processed the scene, something deeper than just the immediate situation. "Rosa," Jack called gently, beckoning her over. "Want to say something to her? You helped by coming here." Rosa hesitated, then slowly approached. As she reached the little girl, her voice was soft but steady. "I like your bear," she said, her tone warm. "His name is Mr. Fluff." The girl grinned, her enthusiasm shining through. Rosa smiled back, and in that small exchange, Jack felt the anxiety ease a little. Maybe they could weather the chaos together after all, but just then, another sound broke through the air. A loud crash resonated from the edge of the playground, followed by startled gasps. Jack straightened up, his heart racing again. What was happening now? He glanced at Maria, who looked equally concerned, and then at Rosa, who suddenly looked very small against the backdrop of unfolding chaos. "Stay close," he urged, sensing that whatever lurked on the horizon was about to cast another shadow over their small moment of light. Would they be able to handle whatever was coming, or was this just the beginning of a much more complicated day? Jack's pulse quickened as adrenaline surged through him. He turned sharply, trying to pinpoint the source of the crash. His mind raced. Was it a child who had fallen or some equipment that had toppled over? As he squinted toward the commotion, the scene unfolded before him with a tangle of emotions floating in the air. A small wooden bench lay on its side, its broken leg sticking out like an accusing finger. Nearby, a group of older kids stood, their expressions a mix of shock and amusement. In the center of it all, a boy named Tyler, known for his bravado, rubbed his bruised arm but wore a defiant smile, as if the pain was an invitation for attention. "Tyler!" Another boy called out, half laughing, half concerned. "What were you doing?" "I was just showing off," Tyler replied with a bravado that even made some of the onlookers chuckle. But Jack could see the embarrassment bubbling underneath. Just like that, the shared moment of kindness had morphed back into chaos. Jack rushed over, wanting to check on Tyler. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, gently resting a hand on the boy's shoulder. Tyler shrugged, but Jack could see the tears pooling in his eyes. "It hurts," he mumbled, trying to suppress a wince. "Let's get you up," Jack said, helping him to his feet. He knew how important it was for kids to feel brave, but he also sensed this was more than just a physical spill. Tyler needed support. He craved assurance that his worth wasn't tied to his ability to perform stunts. Rosa and Maria had joined them, their expressions a mixture of concern and confusion. Maria knelt beside Tyler, her voice soft and encouraging. "We can get some ice for your arm," she suggested, her gentle demeanor wrapping around them like a warm hug. "It was really cool, though. You almost flew," Rosa added, trying to lift the mood. Jack admired her attempt, wishing more kids understood how to balance courage with care, but before Tyler could respond, another crash. This one louder echoed through the playground. Jack glanced over to see a metal snack cart had toppled over, sending the contents flying. Bags of chips spilled across the ground like confetti, creating an unexpected feast for the ants. Jack took a deep breath, realizing they were in for a rough day. "Okay, team," he called, rallying everyone. "Let us clean this up together. It's not as fun to snack when it's on the ground." Laughter broke through the tension as the kids joined forces to collect the scattered snacks. Tyler, following along, started to smile again. For every piece they gathered, a genuine giggle escaped. Jack felt a sense of relief washing over him, even as the chaos threatened to escalate further. Amid the laughter, he saw Rosa glance back at the little girl still hugging Mr. Fluff, panic flashing back across her face. Jack caught her eye and offered a reassuring smile. "You've done great today," he said quietly, kneeling to her level. "You're here for all of this. That matters more than the chaos." But as the pile of snacks dwindled, something else caught his attention at the edge of the playground, a figure standing apart from the crowd, watching them. The stranger's presence felt heavy, like a storm cloud waiting to burst. "Who is that?" Maria murmured, drawing closer to Jack as they exchanged concerned glances. Jack's heart thudded. What could this person want? Was there more trouble on the horizon? In that instant, a new wave of anxiety washed over him. They had already faced so much, but would this stranger bring yet another storm? He held his breath, questions swirling in his mind about who they were and how they would change the course of their day. What was this new shadow looming over their small circle of light? As the mysterious figure drew closer, Jack could feel the atmosphere shift again. Uncertainty hung like a thick fog, but determined not to allow fear to tear them apart, he inhaled deeply, grounding himself. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. He stepped forward, Maria at his side, ready to confront the unknown. "Excuse me," Jack called out, his voice steady despite the heartbeat echoing in his ears. The figure paused, and as they stepped into the light, Jack remembered the boy, an old friend from high school, someone he hadn't seen in years. It was Kyle, someone who had once been very much a part of his life, but the years and their different paths had pulled them apart. "Kyle!" Jack exclaimed, a mix of surprise and joy flaring within him. But there was something deeper in Kyle's expression, a seriousness that cut through the lightheartedness of the day. "What are you doing here?" "Jack. I heard about the gala, and I wanted to talk to you," Kyle replied, glancing over at the children, including Rosa, who were still gathered around, picking up the remnants of their earlier chaos. "I know things have changed between us, but it sounds like you're really making a difference here." "Yeah, it's been quite a ride. What do you need?" Jack's curiosity piqued along with concern. Kyle often had a way of diving into heavy topics, something Jack had always appreciated, even if it occasionally caught him off guard. "I wanted to ask for your help. Things at the community center have been tough. I think we could do something together, maybe coordinate events that could uplift everyone, especially the kids," Kyle said earnestly. "But I can't do it alone. You've built something amazing," and Jack felt a warm swell of hope filling the gap that had once festered between them. I'd love to, but it might be complicated. I have my own commitments now. Maria and I have built a fragile bridge with Rosa, following a recent fallout. Maria's eyes widened, catching Jack's meaning. We're working on healing, she added gently, subtly urging Jack to tread carefully. This connection between him and Kyle could be renewed, but the fragility of their current circumstances weighed heavily. Rosa trotted over, curiosity brimming in her eyes. "Who's this?" she asked, peering up at Kyle as if evaluating his worthiness to be part of their day. "This is a friend of mine. He might be able to help with something special," Jack replied, kneeling down to her level. "Could you show him how amazing you are and what you've been doing here?" Rosa's face lit up, a spark igniting within her. "Okay," she exclaimed, visibly excited as she faced Kyle. The two adults shared a knowing glance. "See? She's already helping without realizing it," Kyle chuckled, tension easing from his shoulders as he engaged with Rosa. "You know, when I was your age, I struggled too. But I learned that asking for help is a sign of strength." Surprisingly, Rosa nodded, sensing the support in his words. "Like you guys helped me today?" she asked, glancing back at Jack and Maria, a hint of realization dawning in her bright eyes. "Exactly," Kyle replied, smiling widely. "Friends lift each other up." Maria's heart swelled, the kindness between them felt resonant, both light and profound. "You know, Rosa," she interjected, "even our mistakes can lead to growth. Just like how today unfolded." "Yes, and learning from those mistakes empowers us to help others," Jack added, feeling emboldened by the connection forming around them. Rosa's brow furrowed in thought, then her face broke into a beaming smile. "I want to help too. We can have a new treasure together." Jack felt a tightness in his chest unwind, replaced by the warmth of hope. Making not just their family, but their community stronger. "Then let us work together," Kyle said enthusiastically. "I'll help set up events that will bring the kids together." With their combined energy and excitement resonating through the air, Jack felt the shadows fade away momentarily. This was where transformation led, shaping futures alongside those who needed it the most. They had all navigated their fears and built a bridge towards something vibrant and thriving. As the sun dipped lower, casting a warm golden hue over the playground, Jack and Maria stood hand in hand, watching Rosa chat excitedly with Kyle, their laughter ringing sweetly into the evening air. He turned to Maria, whose eyes sparked with gratitude and relief. "Whatever lies ahead, we'll manage together. We'll take it one step at a time," he whispered, squeezing her hand tighter than ever. "Yes, together," Maria replied, her voice steady. Hand in hand, surrounded by the laughter of children and the warmth of fresh connections, they stepped boldly into an inspiring new chapter, ready to lift each other and everyone around them toward a brighter future. And to anyone following along, if you felt the power of this transformation, you need to subscribe now and join us as we continue to share stories of hope and healing. This is the moment to show your support for our community. Leave that like now to fuel the energy. We want to hear your reactions. Comment below with your feelings about this heartwarming journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's spread this message far and wide.